It's time for NuWellness TV with Dr. Lee. Join your host, the accomplished Dr. Cherilyn Lee, as she welcomes the leading experts in health and well-being as they explore the advancements in natural health, physical fitness, nutrition, integrative medicine, and self-discovery.
Welcome everyone to another wonderful show. I am so honored to have in the studio someone that I've been knowing for years in the community, and we have been on workshops and panels together. But I am honored to have this wonderful doctor in the studio with me, Dr. Muwwakkil. Muwwakkil. I will. He is a fifth generation herbalist. Can you believe this? Wait till you hear his bio. I mean, he's phenomenal. Fifth generation herbalist. It's like probably about a fourth generation as it comes to our ancestors and everyone. But he's also a practitioner and a motivational speaker. And he can motivate anyone. I'm telling you, he can motivate you to eat right, do the right things. He's a great motivational speaker and very insightful. So I am just so honored to have you here.
To be here with you.
I am honored for you to be here. We did some wonderful social media as far as an email that had gone out, e-blast with your extensive bio. But I'm going to let you kind of just tell our viewer here, because our topic is how your food, and not so much how your food, but how emotionally you could be affected by what you put in your body. But our topic is really something that's a little bit different because, you know, we look at balance in our life and we look at things that what we're doing, but how nutrition and how things in our life every day affects our emotions, our physical health, and our well-being. So we have a wonderful topic, and things have just been absolutely wonderful. So I want you to first tell people a little bit about you. Thank you.
Well, I've been a holistic practitioner for 35 years. I'm fifth generation. My great uncle was Booker T. Washington, herbalist, MD.
Yes.
So from generation to generation, my family learned about, dealt with health on the holistic side. I've went a little bit farther with it because I find that a lot of times when we start talking about health, physical health, we have to start talking about emotional health.
Oh, always.
And
always.
how emotional. How emotions impact you, and that's on how you view yourself, how you're able to forgive, let go, how you develop a relationship, all these particular things that really lead to health. A lot of time when we talk about weight problems, a lot of times people talk about weight problems, I would say it has nothing to do with eating bad primary.
Yes.
It means that overweightness only means that you get preoccupied with everything else but yourself, and then you ate bad. So there's preoccupation. So it's a mental issue that we have to deal with first before we even start going into the physical.
Right. And our thing is, can you be affected by your health? Can it affect your relationship? Can your health affect your relationships is the title of our show.
Yeah.
So, and I look at that relationship as far as your significant other, job-related relationships, relationship with your children. Your health will affect your relationship with everyone around you. Because that's actually our broad title, how your health can affect relationships. Or can it? And we know it can.
Or how your relationship affect your health.
If you're in a toxic relationship,
you're in trouble.
It's going to. I know. I witnessed that. So anyway, I'm healthy now.
Yeah.
So God is good.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that. Let me let you continue on, but I want people to know that really the topic is, because this is radio and television, that how your health can affect your relationships, and then vice versa.
I think that we really have to. Really explore it in many different ways. When you find a lot of times that, especially when people are in difficulty in their relationships, and a lot of times what we do is we make the habit of blaming someone else for the problem. The word enemy means in me. I have the problem. Because I hear many times people, I've been in a relationship for 15 years and this person did this and did this to me. But you were in the relationship.
Yeah.
How did you stay in a relationship that you weren't happy with? So a lot of times and then it impacts your health, because if you're under tension all the time, high blood pressure means hypertension. When you start talking about how you look at yourself. All these things are impacted in a relationship. You know, it's like even as simple as someone complimenting you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because a lot of times we pass each other and the man get dressed real nice or the woman gets dressed real nice and they won't say, "Oh, you look good. You know, I really needed that from you."
Mm-hmm.
So all these different things that and how we view our relationship affects our health. But first of all, how do we view ourselves?
Most definitely.
You know,
Yes.
I always say that first of all, we have to know primary, we're just spirits having a human experience.
Yes.
An old African proverb said, before we became physical, we were at the light level, but one day we looked down at our reflection and we gave a reality for the illusion. So a lot of times we look at the illusions of life as being the reality.
Yes.
And that's all it is, an illusion. This old African proverb said, when you pass on the other side, this would have been the dream. So
Say that again. I like that.
Old African proverb said, when you cross over on the other side, this would have been the dream.
Mm-hmm.
So the illusion is that we think that this materialism is reality. But when you go into the other side, none of the materialism go with you. So if your family asks you, your ancestors ask you, well, I made a 6-figure income and I had a Mercedes and I had an 8,000 square foot home. And the question they could ask is, where is it?
Yes.
So what we find, the quest in life is really trying to find you.
Yes.
And a lot of times, how does that affect relationships? Because a lot of times in our relationships, we have a habit of divorcing ourselves to marry someone else. We give up our values.
Now, that's pretty powerful.
Well, it's that we will divorce ourselves to marry someone else. Because relationships are basically based on you drawing the line what you are about in the beginning.
Yes.
What are you about? If you stay, it's like going into business. If you don't have a contract when you go into business, the business most likely is not going to work.
Right.
Because you didn't define exactly what you're looking for in the contract.
Now, I'm going to stop you there for a minute because you said some very profound things, and I want you to look into the audience eyes when you talk this time, okay? Because I want them to feel what you're saying, okay?
Well, what I'm saying is so important for us to have health inside ourselves because, as Dr. Lipton, biochemist, says that your body works on protection of growth. If you're happy, optimistic, all cells work together. If you deal with a lot of negativity, your cells work independent of each other. You have no money in your pocket, you get less energy. You get money in your pocket, you get more energy. How your body know you got paid? It's the same thing that when it comes into your relationship, is learning how to really draw the line and look inside yourself and see what you're about. If you state, I don't want, and if you're argumentative, if you're jealous, if you're insecure, well, if those qualities.
And if you don't love yourself. You have to love yourself and forgive yourself.
Yes.
Those are some powerful qualities.
But those relationships, like I always say, I don't pray for to ever fall in love. I think that's the craziest thing you could ever do is fall in love with somebody. I think because when you fall, you get stepped on. But if you walk in the love and walk out, and if it ain't working, say, adios, muchachos, I'm out of here. You have to have those particular type of lines drawn that I got to be, love to me, even the word love or being in love, I rather prefer, I'm not asking for love anymore. I'm asking for peace.
I like
because,
that.
see, you could be in love and be in pain, but if you at peace, you're already in love. So we ask for the wrong things. Are you going to bring me balance?
Yes.
So a lot of times I want a man, I want a woman in my life. But no, you want peace, and you want to be balanced with that person. And you want to make sure that you use the right criteria to be in a relationship. I was talking to some young ones, and they were asking me, I tell them, well, in my generation, we courted, and they didn't know what courting was. Well, I said, then let's do it with your generation. Look at it as a job. First, dating means data. Get data. So you're not just going to a dark room looking for someone, but get the data. See, dating is like a job. On a job, they have you fill out an application with previous work you did, previous experience while you leave your last job. Your personal application will know your mother from, how you was raised, why'd you break up with that last person.
Say that again slowly.
Okay.
Because this is important. I've heard you say this before, and I think it's very profound.
Well, so. I was saying dating is like a job. On a job, they have you fill out an application with previous work you did, previous experience while you leave your last job. Your personal application will know your mother from, how you was raised, why'd you break up that last person. At the job application, they put you on probation. They do a background check and make you take a blood test. And then they send you through orientation and training, and later on they give you a benefit package. But if you're in a relationship where you haven't had the application, the probation, the orientation filled out, then what you're going to end up with is an unskilled worker, and you're going to have a health wanted sign. So why don't you just make sure that before you start allowing your emotions to get involved in this falling in love, that you make sure you have the right criteria, and not only the right criteria, but to see if the criteria is true. And when you know it's true, then you could go a little bit farther in that relationship. But when we meet people and we start giving us the benefits with no probation, no application, no orientation, you're always going to get an unskilled worker. And you're going to be in another relationship over and over again because you never really focus on yourself. What am I bringing? You know, I have never been in a relationship where someone's going to tell me, I'm going to bring you some drama, I'm going to be this way. It's always the other person.
Right.
So we just have to understand that's the way. But we have to ask ourselves, why are we in this relationship after relationship after relationship and having the same condition over and over again without exploring ourselves?
Exactly. And I want to say because, you know, I deal with people on a daily basis, especially when it comes to health and health issues. Mm-hmm. And majority of them, I wanted to share one incident because it was the most profound, toxic relationship I've ever encountered in my entire life. Mm-hmm. It was a concierge service, and I went into someone's home. And when I walked in the door, even though it was a beautiful home, it's like a mansion, beautiful home, but all of a sudden I felt like little pins were sticking my body all over. Mm-hmm. And now I knew going in this lady had a terminal illness. Mm-hmm. I knew going in. But it's where it came from. Mm-hmm. What was the root cause of this terminal illness? Mm-hmm. And it had, you know, after I got to know the patient, it stemmed back from the relationship and what happened in the relationship. It was pretty devastating. And this is why she was where she was in her illness. Mm-hmm. I almost didn't want to stay there because I felt that. But after going through the situation and what this person encountered, we were able to get past that phase. It took some work to get past all that. But her healing process, and she just lit up and became alive. Because at first I was thinking, is she still with us? Because she was motionless in the bed. But she came alive and things just started to change. But that relationship, a lot of people are not growing together, they're dying together. I watched my own grandparents, it happened to them, you know, because my grandfather said, well, I'm going to stay with her until death do us part. So they were together almost 80-some, close to 80 years. And he lived to be 100 and she lived to be 97, unhappy. Yeah. They were unhappy. It was just sad.
Well, we have the myth that when we're in a relationship, I'm going to change someone.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to change someone. One time I was in a bad relationship, and I was, you know, because in my profession, I'm going to bring this universal understanding, awareness, and one day there's going to be a change. Yes. But one day creation taught me the answer, because I was watering my garden. When I was watering my garden, I kept on throwing water on this rock, and the rock looked at me and said, I'm not going to blossom or bloom. I said, that's the answer. Because you're not going to change someone. And you have to understand that it's really, you have to change yourself, because anytime that you're feeling at ease in a relationship for a period of time and you can't find any headway and you're bumping, you have to really explore yourself. But see, a lot of times our ego, you know, get us in the way that I'm going to make this thing work, I'm going to make it. You're not supposed to do that if it's working, because communication is the key. And if you're with someone that you cannot communicate with, then you have to question yourself. But being in a 3-year relationship, 10-year relationship, 20-year relationship, and know that you're being unhappy, you're developing a codependency on pain. And a lot of times we do not know how to let go, because it's like being in a pool of cold water. And then and you're in there for 10 minutes and someone comes in and said, how's the water? You say, it's fine. No, it ain't. That water just as cold as it when you jumped into it. You just got accustomed to the cold. So a lot of times in our relationships, we get accustomed to conflict and pain, which in return affects us in our emotional and our physical. So hypertension sets in. You're not at pain, so you're not having that romantic good dinner. No one's really caring about each other. And then all of a sudden this weight comes because no one is in tune with each other, saying, no, we got to be better. So the support that you need in a relationship is never there. because a relationship should, the key thing is not having a man or a woman or two men and two in your life. What you're looking for from the other person is to be your balance. When they could balance you all, which means that you could bring your strengths and you could bring your weaknesses, and understand the communication where it becomes problems, because we always think our perception of reality is their perception of reality, instead of accepting that each one of us have a different perception of reality. I'm a big art collector, and I love abstract. And when I share one of my pieces with someone, or if I go to a museum, I see that everyone has a different perception of the abstract piece, and that's the way it is in life. That we all have our own perception. So instead of saying this is the right way or this is the wrong way, from my perception, because a lot of times it becomes difficult in our relationship because of the fact a lot of times our ego gets in the way. And we rather be right than be loved. So a lot of times I just want to be right, even if the other person's at pain.
Oh, I've seen that. I've seen people
I don't want
do
to.
that.
I just want to be right. But no, the question is, some things you don't have to say. Some things you don't have to bring up. I don't mind soup. I just don't like it boiling hot. I like roses, but take the thorns off. No, when to say and when it's not necessary. But if you're going to cause your other significant other pain in the conflict, it might not be the right time. But that ego gets in the way. And that ego, in religion they call it Satan or the demon or whatever, is the enemy is really you. That you have these insecurities and you allow this self-need to hurt another person, and that in return it hurts yourself. Because you can never be right when you're feeling pain after you state what you had to state, or the other person's in pain from what you express to them. You're never right in that situation because the pain is there. So we have to really question how we view and how we deal in different situations.
Exactly. And I always tell people, going into a relationship, please be an authentic person. Be authentic with yourself. I've been working on this book for a long time based on my own relationship from years ago, because I was not authentic going into the relationship. I was 18 years old. I was just ready to move out of my mother's house. That was a great escape for me at that time. So being an authentic person, then things that happened down the line, I got to the place I said, well, I can't fault him on a lot of things because look where I was. So, so it's easy for me to work with other people because you're not authentic. You're not authentic with yourself. So you have to be that way and be upfront in the very beginning so you don't have these problems down the line. And I don't care how old you are, if you're going to jump into a relationship and marriage, which I did at a very early age, you have to know these things. But you're not taught these things at home. You don't see this in the homes. You don't see love in the homes. So when we talk about relationship, we're looking at relationship between your parents, between how their relationship between themselves, then the relationship between you and your parents. So the relationship, how it's affecting your health, is a relationship on a global level.
Well, you find in our community now that the average grandparent is 39 years of age. Big Mama 39, my dear 51. A lot of times, young ladies having 3 and 4 children from 3 or 4 different men do not like none of the daddies, and all the kids look like their daddy. This is dissension. So in psychology, it's what you call attachment style. If you're not hugged, and loved as a child, you're going to have difficulties in the rest of your life.
Medically, it's called failure to thrive.
Yes.
Yes, so it is in the medical book, failure to thrive.
Yeah, so what you find is that when children are born in stress, if the mother is 15, 16, 17 years old, the child was under stress in the womb, which is going to turn around and going to have respiratory problems. So you find children that were highly stressed as in infancy.
In utero.
They're going to have a 65-75% of some type of respiratory problem, asthma or allergies. So we have to understand then at that age of development, it's like 3 stages. You're born, but you're not awoke to about 6 or 7. 2 times 7, you go through your adolescence, and 3 times 7, you're 21. But a lot of times, if you haven't dealt with what happened in those early years, it could impact you the rest of your life.
Most definitely.
So a lot of the pain that we go under is because of anytime that we're under pain, we create characteristics in our personality.
Oh, yes.
To block us from being in that pain all over again. So you might not want to, You have met people that will respond this way when you meet them. Hello, how you doing? I don't know you. Hell. That's
True.
why I'm saying hello, for you to know me. But
Yeah.
their response is to reject that closeness right at that particular time. They don't know how to step out
No.
and
And
develop relationships, or
Right.
will pass other human beings and will not speak.
Or not have a boundary. I mean, you cannot invade my boundary.
Yeah.
No hugging, no shaking hands. You can tell those too because they'll just back up.
Or
They'll just back
they'll
up.
pass you. You know, a lot of times in our community now, we pass each other and won't even speak. Won't say good mornings. Hello, how you doing? Do you know those are blessings that you give someone when you try to make their day?
And
Just
a
say
smile.
hi,
A
good
smile
morning,
is
smile.
a blessing.
But you'll go to church every Sunday and say, I need a blessing. Here comes the blessing through another individual, and you won't even pick it up. And then go to church the next Sunday and say, I didn't get my blessing. Well, it's going to come through another human being. What does it hurt to say good morning, hello? Be friendly with one another. And this expands your understanding of yourself.
Exactly.
So it's so much, it's so much work that we have to do when we talk about relationships and how it impacts the health. Now, it's like if you got two overweight people in a relationship, they're really distant from each other. How did you develop a codependency that neither one of you looked at the other person and said, we have to make a change here? So we just have to look at every aspect of how health relates to us and our relationship, how it relates to our children. We just have to make this conscious effort to develop these relationships, but first of all, develop yourself.
Develop yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And don't just, accept every little thing. Sit down and be open about. Things do change in relationships as things go along. And just sit down and have a talk about it.
Well,
Don't wait until it just escalates.
Well, it's learning. I always say if I'm in a relationship, just treat me like the new guy. Because the new guy gonna get everything. It's like treat me like the new girl. Women should say treat me like the new girl, because the new girl gonna get everything that you're asking for.
Oh, yes.
Is that we get so comfortable in our
Yes.
relationships that special wants and needs and care are just like a flower or a little text poem. Just letting the person know that you care. We get very comfortable, and then we're looking all over again. But you have the power to change that in particular time. I was and really looking at the person that you marry into. It's amazing that we as a culture will meet the in-laws at the wedding. You see, your kids are getting married, but the in-laws meet at the wedding. That should have been a process that took place 2 years earlier, or when the child said, "We got to get together with your family." We have to understand certain cultural things that we have to start developing. Is who are you? What are you about? When I was growing up, you bring the girl over your house, you sit over, you court. And you allowed your family to develop a relationship with that person, not only you. And you find other cultures, Jewish cultures and other cultures, African cultures, and more people from the East still hold on that process that when you marry into a family, you become part of the greater family. But we have these materialistic ways. They look good, the sex was good, and they got a job. And that's the only criteria that we have for a relationship, and wondering why it doesn't work.
Right.
What is the heart of the person? Because a lot of times a person will develop conflicts with key points that have happened in their life. Say, for instance, that you have someone that's parents were married for 10 years. Someone lost their job. Someone left the family. The mother or the father left the family. You could be in a relationship with a person for 10 or 12 years, and one of you lose your job, they will react on what they know to do. You'll say, why did you leave? Because my parents broke up at the same time. So it's so important for us to really explore and really have a relationship that is really open. And even the pain and things that we try to hide from the other mate, and counseling is always important in a relationship. Shouldn't be in a relationship, because when the conflict is starting to come, you really need counseling. Don't think you can work it out. You might need a third party.
Can I interject there for a moment? I just had a conversation with someone just this morning that their son told the mother that, I'm dating someone from a different culture, and their mother works hard, come home, clean the house, cook, and does everything. Whereas this person felt, well, I shouldn't have to come home and clean up behind everybody and work 48 hours a week. But I said, well, this other person does, but it's a whole different culture. Yeah, whole different culture.
Yeah, we have to,
Just on the way here this morning, had this conversation.
Well, even in cultures, you have subcultures.
Yes, you do.
And a lot of us, I don't, and I'm not saying he's still my brother and my sister, but I don't know what about a red hat with red shoes, with red coat and red sock. I don't even know what store says, but that brother from that particular tribe does, or the sister that have the expanded pants that won't expand any farther. Though it's still shoes size is too small, but she wasn't supposed to have rhymes, so even her big toe might drag. What I'm saying is that
That's pretty bad.
there still are people,
but
they're from a different tribe. So just because they, if it's African American, well, you say, well, no, what tribe are you from? Because sometimes in certain tribes, they like arguing, they talk, go to the store and talk on the phone for 15, 20 minutes, and everybody know their person. I mean, you just have to know what you're dealing with here. So that's why the probation period in the data is so important in a relationship, because if we only go for this physical, they look good, the sex was good, and they got a job, and you give all your emotions and all your feelings, you are a fool. I'm just going to call you online. You're foolish, because it should be more criteria that you're looking for in a relationship than just the basic. They have a nice car, but they're foolish. They have, we have to have more of an in-depth.
We do, and
contact with individuals.
Exactly, and I shared this story once before, but it was the most profound relationship that I had ever witnessed myself, where a young lady. In another state, she had sustained a gunshot wound to the back of the head, and she became paralyzed. Now, she had 5 children prior to this happening, and she was from a different culture than her husband. And her family said, do not marry him. He's not from our background, so don't marry him. And she did anyway. But when this accident occurred, it was at a family gathering. And it was just a really horrible accident for this to happen to her. When I met the family, she was in bed on full life support. And her husband said, the family now have accepted me because I refused to take my wife and put her in a home. I downsized everything. I bought a generator and put it at home. And I'm taking care of her. It was during the time you can take a person to the drive-in theater. He was still taking his wife camping. And I would see them late at night, and he would just have his bed next to her hospital bed in the living room. He said, all I need to do in my recliner next to her is just touch her. And I feel the warmth and the love. Because they had something special before the accident occurred. It was more than just the sex, and so this brings it to me to watch the beautiful love this couple had. He didn't just jump up and leave. She wasn't this beautiful woman anymore. He said, "I still love her. I loved her heart. I loved her."
Well, I talked to, and I've done seminars with older couples, and I remember one time I did a seminar, and the seminar was you had to be married over 50 years old or longer.
Okay.
And I had a couple, Mr. and Mrs. Rudolph.
I would have missed it.
I always remember them because they walked in the house and they were holding hands, and both of them were on canes. And I said, "How long have you two been married?" She said, "For 64 years." And he said, I said, "How long were your parents married?" They said 62, and his parents were married 68. And so I said, tell me to the ingredients to having a long marriage. He said, "When she talking, I shut up." And he said, "When I'm talking, she shuts up." He said, "We never talk at the same time because you get to listen. Someone have to talk. Someone has to listen. Someone has to listen. Someone has to talk." He said, "We went and bought our home 46 years ago, and we went and bought our home, and we went through the whole house. And when we went to the bedroom, we got on our knees and prayed and said, this place is going to be a place of love and passion and high intensity for the rest of our life." So they said they got off their knees and they went to Sears and Roebuck and bought 2 sleeping cots because they know where they're going to argue sometime.
Okay.
And so she said, what we did in the house, too, is because my man, he likes to drink a little bit, so I took half the garage and made him a bar. And for when he and his friends want to get together, they could go out in the back. And what she said, that keeps floozies from him at a club. So, and she said, but she said, in your space, you need your own time. So she said, I have a bedroom that I have a do not disturb sign on. So when he comes in the room, and if I have that do not disturb sign, he won't even knock on it. But she said, but the couple, and listening to the other couples in the relationship, the key that they all agreed on was stop sweating the small stuff.
Yeah.
Because I asked Ms. Rudolph, I said, what do you think one of the keys of long marriage? She said, stop plucking the chicken. I said, what's plucking the chicken? She says, I'm from the South, so I have to give these kind of analogies. She said, what happens in most relationships is pettiness. Most people in their relationship don't really have a problem with each other. It just be petty things that they intensify. Well, here's a remote. Well, why we got to watch while you watched last week? Why, how come I can't watch what I want to? Oh, then fine, I'm out of here. It was a remote. And it was a TV.
Yeah. Where did it start?
We started from. So what we do is when real issues happen in a relationship, we are already destroyed because we bring up pettiness. Sometimes people just need space. This is what happens. A lot of times you might find one person want to talk it out. The other person gets in a little mood and they don't want to say anything. Both of you have to find a compromise. You might need 30 minutes or an hour, a half a day to work it out, but we're going to have to communicate.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times what men will do is like, okay, I'm just going to leave it alone. I won't say anything. And that doesn't happen. That is not good for the relationship either. Is you have to get to the point, what are we communicating on, what we having an argument about? Because it's like if you watch football. Football, when they come back to the huddle, they don't talk about the last play. They talk about the new play.
Yes.
So we spend more time on the problem than the solution. Well, you did this. We spending 30 minutes talking about something that's already happened. What is the solution the next time this occurs? Well, we are trained. Sometime in your relationships, you have to be, in sports, the plays are usually made on the sideline. And sometime what we have to do is be the other person. Mm-hmm. So if she's saying something, then be her for a minute. If he's saying something, be him for a minute. Go to the sideline of the conflict and come back and try to find a resolution or an understanding that we can constantly move in or move on. But we have these contemporary relationships that when pain happens, then we run from the relationship.
I'm going to ask you a question. What do you find with men who are maybe looking for someone to settle down with? Mm-hmm. And they keep running into kind of the same kind of pattern with women when it comes to a single woman with children and carrying the baggage from one relationship to the next, or not so much baggage. A lot of the women who have gone through past or childhood hurt from molestation or rape. So how do you deal with the men?
I think that's when you start having an honest relationship in the beginning. I mean, it really has to take time to really sit down and have a true discussion of pain. A lot of times molestation comes in 10 years into the relationship. Mm-hmm. But those characteristics are there. Or you might be in the bed and you're saying, why this person is not affectionate. They get in bed, they turn to themselves. There's no hugging, no holding, no romance.
No passion, yeah.
There is, it could be as easy as understanding and communicating those issues. It's like coming in the bed where a lot of mistakes happen with men and women. It's like, man, we show our attention, our love through intimacy. Mm-hmm. Not just sex, not just the sex part of it, but the intimacy of the holding and hugging. A woman might interpret that if she's using her sexual as a power, mm-hmm. she's doing an injustice to herself.
We don't do that.
Yeah, girl, it's out there. But we use it as power, mm-hmm. And a lot of times I always say, learn how to spell first. A lot of times we think it's gold. Take the G off, it's old. You see? But we put this power in this not being able to express our feelings, but a lot of times of not being able to communicate past pain and past conflict. So a lot of times the ego gets in the way. So when you have a man that is looking for a woman like that, it's like I said, the first stage is the application.
Here we go back.
The dating means data. I need data. How much data you have? And you could a lot of times tell by what they're saying and what type of social relationship they have with other people. Mm-hmm. Now, say for instance, you have in a relationship where a person doesn't have a lot of friends or around them. you're going to be dealing with another issue there from that standpoint, because a lot of their decisions are going to always be made in their own head. They don't feel comfortable to have counsel, so they make all the decisions basically on their perception of what life is. You have to really have a discussion. But first of all, in that discussion, I said you have to draw the line about what you are in the beginning.
Right.
In
exactly.
the line of who you are and what you're about, you have to be stern to that position. Because what's going to happen if you're not stern to what you want, if you saying that I don't want argument, I don't want conflict, I don't want moodiness. If you do not stick to your line in the beginning, their ego is going to try you, and every time you give in, they're going to try you all over again. It's equivalent to having who's in control, the parent or a spoiled child. Who's really in control? It's really the child is in control, because the child, you said okay, all right, let me do it this time, but I'm gonna do the same thing all over again. And we have these same situations in our own relationships that we will say, I'm not about this, and then when the person tries you, you give in again, you give in again, you give in again. You have to be able to love yourself to the point that you say, I would love you the most, I wish you the best. It's like trying to make a relationship work is, in the case of, it's like if you wear a size 10 shoe. Now, you see another pair of shoes, they're nice, leather, Italian leather, they're really nice, but they're size 8.5. Don't make them a bad pair of shoes. They just don't fit you. And some people just don't fit you. And you keep on trying to put something on that doesn't work for you. It's not going to change. Sometimes the shoes are too big. Sometimes the shoes are too small. Right. So you should wish that person the best in their life. See, when you're in a relationship and you give something away and it doesn't work for you, you give to someone. Don't throw it away. Give it away. That's what you call goodwill.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. This has been really great because there's so much happening in relationships and with people, and if you don't address things properly, it will affect your health. Oh. You know, it would from skin problems and eczema, which I had years ago, going through a certain part of my marriage. And it's funny how this doctor walked into the room and he said, whatever is eating away at you, you need to change it. He didn't want to prescribe anything. He said, you need to change whatever's going on with you. He was just, he was like 90 years old, still working. I never forget that day. But then I was in my 20s during that time. I'm like, why is he saying that? I didn't understand it at that age.
Yeah, well, those relationships. Oh, excuse me, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you do practice what you preach, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but I was saying, and a lot of times, if you don't address those insecurities in those relationships, it could be like this. You're a healthy thinking person. Your mate is insecure because they might be a little overweight. But you're more, you're more athletic or more conscious of your health. That person with that insecurity will feed you bad food to get you to pick up weight.
I've seen that.
They will change you. So someone has to be strong, because you find that if a woman is very attractive, the man is very attractive, and the other mate is having some insecurities, they will try to change you. They might not try to be like you or get themselves healthy. It depends on who's the strongest in the relationship.
Right.
And you have to make that type of decision. There's a lot of times when you're dealing with past pain in relationships, people will pick up weight, and a lot of times women will pick up weight just for they won't be approached and be hurt again.
Exactly.
So I'm going to put on this weight like it's armor so no one will ever hurt me again in my life. So what we do is we create a social norm of people just in the same pain that we're in, and this is what we call a social norm. It doesn't mean it's natural, it just means it's normal. Alcoholics run with alcoholics, drug addicts run with drug addicts, unhealthy people run with healthy people, positive people run with positive people. So a lot of times your social network will compensate for you looking inside yourself and saying, I need to make a change. I being a holistic practitioner, and I know we're in the same field, that we see so many people that will make excuses why they're overweight. I could lose. I was talking to a lady yesterday. You're 150 pounds overweight, and you're gonna tell me, well, I could lose it anytime I want to. I said, why you didn't make it? Why haven't you? Well, it's not hard. Why haven't you? Well, because I eat too much. I said, no. I said, your weight is not because you you eat too much food, your weight is there because you don't eat any food. You eat junk.
Yeah.
You know, that's why your weight is. If you ate food, you couldn't be overweight.
Exactly.
But what you're putting in your body is stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
empty calories with no substance. Yeah.
I was thinking about even this political issue that we're having in the country, talking about, healthcare. They should really tell it what is sick care.
Mm-hmm.
You don't talk about health.
No.
It's not healthcare, it's sick care.
Not at all. Not at all.
The people need the medication are sick.
Yes, they are.
If we would spend the same amount of money on teaching people how to eat, what to eat, learn how to deal with their emotions, learning to let go of past pain, understanding that when things happen to your life that it was there for a reason. What's meant to hit you will not miss you, and what's meant to miss you can never hit you. So whatever you're facing in your life is an initiation. It's a whole R portal. It's your choice. Mm-hmm. So when we learn that this perception of life that we have the capacity to change it at any particular time.
Yes.
It's just changing your thought pattern. Mm-hmm. It's just a perception. When you have difficulties in your life, 4 things have to happen to you before you get a birthday. And if only 3 of them happen, you're dead. And that's called summer, spring, winter, and fall. Yes. Everything that you're going through is for a season. Mm-hmm. But each season is preparing you for the next season.
Yes, it is.
So we have to change our perception in life. And I tell people, it's just like as easy as people in your life that when you come up with a new idea and they say, well, that won't work. How do you know? Just because you didn't do it? Mm-hmm. There's more in the unknown than the known. So a lot of times that we minimalize ourselves because we have to understand there's more to be brought into this reality than it's already here. There's more in the unknown than the known. Yes. So sometimes you have to understand, and the Bible says, live by faith, not by sight, And the question is, where do you want to go in life? African proverb says, if you don't know where you're going, any road to get you there.
That's so true.
And sometimes we be in choosing our relationships. I've seen people choose relationships. They've been having conflict, and all of a sudden, somebody tell them, well, if y'all got married, it'd be okay.
Oh, no.
The old African proverb said 2 people fighting on the ground should never climb a tree together.
Okay.
So we just have to understand, if it's not working, release it. And understanding that you deserve the best in your life, but you first of all have to ask yourself, if you're in a relationship for 3 years, the question is not what they did, is what did you do? Right. And why were you there?
Right. We have covered so much, and I just thank you so much for being a guest with us today, and I'm going to have to pick up some things and do some other discussions as well, because dealing with can your health affect your relationships, there's so many tiers and so many levels as we deal with medicine and being a healthcare practitioner for over 40 years at NuWellness Healthcare. There's so many levels that I look at as well. And what you hit on today is wonderful because people don't look at that. We look at the medical paradigm or the holistic paradigm, still dealing with nutrition, and sometimes there could be a nutrition depletion problem from medication that will also change your personality, change your mood. So those type things, if you're taking medication, you don't know what's going on with you as far as how your relationship is at work, home, school, with a significant other, things in the body can also affect the liver, the brain, the gut-brain barrier, the colon, being congested. People full of it, trust me, they are full of it. And a chronic is more than they need. So dysbiosis of the colon. So we look at the whole thing. Are you absorbing the right medication? Are you taking a birth control pill that's robbing you of your B vitamins? Are you taking certain things that are robbing you of your nutrition? So nutrition depletion is something that we offer at NuWellness Healthcare, so we can see and look at the whole person and get a full comprehensive evaluation and see exactly what's going on. What my guest here had to say today,
thank you, my sister.
It's been wonderful.
I just want to make one statement. And
yes.
I just love you, Dr. Lee, for all these years.
Thank you.
Because your commitment to the community, my commitment to the community, we just want the public to be committed to the community and their families. You should have health parties. You could have jewelry parties and clothing parties and all kind of parties that have nothing to do with you and your health. But when you have professionals like Dr. Lee, like me, and a number of others that are there at your disposal to be able to assist you, have a health party. Let's talk about some of these
that
issues.
sounds good. Let's have the first one. Let's set a
go
date.
Hey, let's rock and roll.
Let's set a
I'm
date,
ready
and
to
we're
go
going to
for
do
it.
that.
No,
okay.
we have to have
But
that.
we're going to move on. And again, I thank you to our segment on Dining Out Healthy with Dr. Lee and Marie. And we had a wonderful time this week. And I just want to say before I bring Marie on, just to discuss the restaurant that we had chosen, that this particular restaurant will actually set up a protocol for you based on your illness, or just say diagnosed, or allergies, or food concerns. And they will put it in their computer, so when you go there, they'll pull it up and say, okay, we know this person is gluten intolerant or sensitive. They'll pull up whatever your food problems are, they will pull it up for you and design it for you. So your practitioner, your nutritionist, or just you can go in and say, look, I just want to make sure I don't have anything to have this in it, so I don't have an adverse or have some type of food allergy or reaction. So, Marie, thank you so much. Let's move forward.
Awesome. That's so true. It's wonderful. So we had the pleasure of going to True Food Kitchen, which I'd been there before, and
Wonderful.
I wanted Dr. Lee to experience this amazing experience. Not just the ambiance, it's so clean and fresh. And the co-owner is Dr. Andrew Vail, who is a medical
Yes, someone I've
medicine.
had the pleasure of meeting.
Yes,
He's just
yes.
wonderful.
Yes, that's
Yes.
him. That's him. Yes, it is.
Yeah, I had the pleasure
He
of
has
meeting him.
He has a
Wonderful.
wonderful cookbook that he also sells there. So all his ingredients and all his food is just carefully chosen and picked. And most of it is grown there right outside, a lot of the
Yes, it
vegetables and
is.
herbs. We started out with some delicious charred cauliflower, which was the first little appetizer, which is right there on the screen, which was yummy, delicious with pistachios and dates and mints and tahini.
It was,
and it was
wonderful.
like melt in your mouth. We also had the best guacamole I've had besides mine, with fresh kale and vegetables and herbs. It was delicious. And we
Avocados.
moaned
It
and
was
groaned
so
the whole time.
Wonderful.
Very
And pita chips.
and the homemade.
Non-gluten chips.
Absolutely.
Which was wonderful.
And
Because
so-
I love sauce. I love that in chips. So that's great.
Yes, and the manager, Matt, was so courteous and so wonderful with guiding us through the menu. And he had such a passion for the food and what they do there, like you said.
And the people.
Taking care of the
yes,
people.
Yes.
We also had the roasted mushroom pizza, which was a white pizza, gluten-free with asparagus. Which was like, wow.
Yeah, and a
Wow.
tiny sample.
Yeah, it was delicious.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Everything was there. But when you walk into a restaurant and have that experience and see the people they are concerned about,
Yes.
who's coming in to sit down and eat, and they're waiting on you with such concern and passion, that has a lot to do with digesting that food. The food was absolutely wonderful, but you can go to a place and the food is wonderful, but the service is horrible. That's a really bad experience.
And what I really loved also, this was a nice little soup that they brought us to sample, which was delicious. And then we finished off with the ancient grain bowl, which had the avocado and the grains and the snow peas and cashews and turmeric, which is so medicinal and healing, which was wonderful. And what I really liked about the place, besides everything, when the ambiance, was that they were very child friendly. And they have a menu that's all geared to children. So the children have choices, healthy choices too. And they do have fish, and they do have grass-fed, finish to end meats for those who are meat lovers. When they cook vegan, they cook gluten-free. That's all listed on the menu. You can ask any question you want, and they'll answer it for you.
And they have the patience
They
to
do.
answer.
They
We
do.
did have a wonderful dessert
Oh
that's up
my
there.
gosh.
Oh my
It was
goodness.
gluten-free,
Free.
vegan key lime pie with a coconut cream whip, which I do that and I love it. That was scrumptious with a
It
date
was.
crust. It was so wonderful.
Dates and cashews.
We're definitely going back.
Yeah, we are.
And I found out they have 17 locations, which I wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
So they're all around in different parts of the city. So wherever you're at, look them up. Bring your children, bring your family. It's very, very, very warm and friendly place to be. And ask for Matt if you go to Manhattan Beach. He'll take care of you.
He certainly will.
He
The one
will.
thing, too, about being kid-friendly, and I had seen several things where they talk about kids coming into a restaurant. And, I don't have little children, but I do have younger grandchildren. But they were all quiet and, sat there and ate, and it wasn't like kids climbing up the wall, which we have been some places that they were almost swinging off the curtains there, or off something in the restaurant, and it was very a bad experience. But here, and you can go places where kids are behaved. That's all I can say. They were behaved children, and it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I just want to thank Marie for always, always taking the time to research each restaurant to find out the people and a little history behind the restaurant and the people and the food. So I just want to thank you so much, Marie, because you do a wonderful job when it comes to that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And when you join us next week, you will be seeing another wonderful place. Go out and try these places, because a lot of times we'll say, I want to go somewhere to eat something. You go with a group of friends, and by them having more than one location, you can go and check it out. True Kitchen.
True Food Kitchen.
True Food Kitchen.
And they'll keep it
you
on
see,
file.
now they're going to remember it because I didn't. They'll remember it now.
The food is true.
Yes, it's true food. So, again, I want to thank you, Marie. Thank you so much for the segment on dining out healthy. Thank you. So we're coming to a close, and I want to thank my guests. It's been absolutely wonderful. The doc here, who is just, there's so much knowledge, it's unbelievable. And thank, again, Marie. We will be going into more depth as it relates to can your health affect your relationship. But this today was just absolutely wonderful. So I want everybody to repeat after me. I am so grateful.
So grateful.
That I am.
That I am.
A magnet.
A magnet.
For miracles.
For miracles.
And remember, it is no cost out of your pocket to give someone a smile. Yes. Have a blessed day.
Join us every Wednesday live at 11 a.m. for NuWellness TV with Dr. Lee. Remember, healthy mind, healthy body.